Art is more than just color and texture. It's a glimpse of what's possible. That moment before that pencil hits the paper, anything is possible in that little gap. Let's see where we go.
This mode, this kind of art that I create did not exist before. Like, it's entirely my own creation that I came to when I really was in the depths of grief after Gabriel died. So for about 3 years after Gabriel died, I did pretty well. I stayed really, really busy, and then it absolutely clobbered me. Like, just physically, the weight of grief, I had no idea what that is like. The idea just took a hold of me. I don't remember anything about 3 weeks except building this thing on my dining room table before I had my studio and just cutting those squares. I cut them all by hand with an old school paper cutter. I can still hear that in my mind. And it required just enough of my attention that it like stopped me from spinning in my own sadness. I couldn't just dwell on my grief. And I feel like that just methodical, boring ritual, it helped me metabolize my grief, and it helped me make something bigger. You know, it has turned into a much bigger thing, much bigger than I am. And I very much believe that that's Gabriel's pulling strings for me to travel around and meet people and have opportunities like this. It saved my life. I really believe that. I really do. I've had so many people who have worked on this project with me, so many, my family and my friends, my daughter. To think of all of those like loving hands touching something, I think that good intention and that love and that healing comes with it. And I hope some of that is reflected in this now. People's emotional well-being, if they're relaxed, if they're comfortable, if they're optimistic, that improves their healing and improves their outcomes.
We know that art has the power to promote healing. The research actually goes back decades, and you can look at many different platforms, whether it be visual art or auditory art. All of those things have been studied, and there's a preponderance of evidence out there that shows that it is an aid in the healing process. We put art there to take people's mind off of the stresses that accompany the disease they might be there getting treated for.
And so hopefully this is part of a way to treat the spirit of patients and their families and the people who work here as well.
Our spaces are designed for that patient to experience healing that they would not have received anywhere else. That having a lot to do with their interaction with our creative expressions, but also how our staff is impacted and how that flows into patient care.
We've intentionally combined elements of art and interpretation of art into our medical training, specifically for safety training, which leads to consistent communication and better care and more accurate diagnoses and better treatment.
I haven't seen another healthcare agency that's this heavily invested, not only in public art and what it does for the enhancement of the landscape and connecting people together, but for the arts and really understanding what they do for the human well-being and, the wholeness of person. This investment in supporting community in this way really helps keep us healthy in a time where we really need it.
When you create art, you bare your soul a little bit. That in itself is a brave thing for an artist to do. Now you've gotten a glimpse into this person's world.
I got into art pretty early on. As a kid, I would do it in class often, and I've got the detentions to prove how often I did it. I think I was not quite the son that my dad wished I was. He was a blue-collar guy, played hockey, kind of a dirty, roughneck kind of dude. And then he had this son that was artsy and emotional and stuff like that. Right around 6th grade, I came across a book called Juxtapose at my uncle's place. And I was flipping through, and it was art that I'd never seen in a museum. And that's how I kind of really got into graffiti as a whole. So after high school, you're supposed to graduate, you're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to pick what you're gonna be when you grow up. After looking around, I got my first tattoo, and I asked the artist 1,000 questions, and that's it. I'm gonna get into tattooing. My parents were a little bummed. I grew up in a wonderful middle-class household. They sent me to private schools, and then I want to hang out with degenerates and do tattoos. So they weren't positive, but once I got into tattooing, it was fantastic. My favorite thing about being an artist is, yes, I do create these things from a personal stance, but I'm sharing them with everyone else. I want people to see this stuff. And I'm just so happy that not only have I used art for my own healing, but get to help other people heal, and they get to carry that every day.
You outdid yourself, Tony.
Well, thank you. My dad was not a tattoo guy. He was very blue collar, he didn't have anything on him. And when I started getting better at tattooing, he's like, all right, I'll let the kid have a shot. So I tattooed the TCV, Taking Care of Business lightning bolt, on his arm. It was such a weird day, because he's not a tattoo guy, but I did it. It looked great, it looked clean. And he saw me develop as an artist, and he started seeing me really get steam, and he was proud that I was doing this work, in and around town. Unfortunately, when we had our first kid, my son, we lost my dad through a suicide. He had lost his job, he became terribly depressed, and we lost him. It was a tough time. My dad was my best friend, and I didn't even know it until he was gone. I just became a father, and I lost my biggest blueprint on how to be a good one. And on top of it, we've got this new kid that has special needs that I don't even know where to start with. Like right around 2 or 3, we started to figure out that Shepherd wasn't like the other toddlers. And after an evaluation, we found out that Shepherd was on the autism spectrum. We were crushed. We were in the wake of my father's passing. It was hard because you never saw him, his personality, his wants, his needs, his desires. He was kind of blank. Thank my lucky stars, we got him into Finnegan Autism Center. We were blown away from the first time we stepped through those doors. We met an entire staff that were happy to be at work. We just knew that he was in the best possible hands, and he had the best possible shot of just being a kid. Not a kid with autism, just a kid. So after, 3 years of trying and hoping, I finally get to paint Finnegan's Autism Center. This definitely feels like the storybook ending. We're gonna be doing a painting called Glimpses. So that way we have something in there that not just the next generation of kids, but every generation of kids that go through there will see that, and that will hopefully be a memory they have forever. We didn't see his personality just in one day. You just see little fragments, little glimpses of it here and there. But then those glimpses started getting closer together, and that's always stuck with me. So with the piece that I drew up, Shepherd loved bubbles. What kid doesn't? And I remember a bubble just floating by, and I just focused in on just that bubble, and you could see so clearly in there, but everything else in the background just blurred out. Whoa. gotta draw that. The biggest thing with the Finnegan mural is I have a debt of gratitude to Big, 100%. Without their help, I don't know how long it would have taken for me to meet my son. You know, they really got him to shine and to be here and be this sweet boy that I love so much. He's amazing. He's a sweetheart. He wants to connect, he wants to play, he wants to create, and the best way that we do that is through art. And now he's drawing on the back of his homework. Now, I know you're not supposed to do that at school, but it takes one to know one. You're doing fine, kid. I'm hoping that new parents who we're in our shoes will see this mural and know you're gonna get glimpses and eventually you're gonna see the whole pictures, but you just gotta stay there and stick with it.
When we hit these hard moments, when we're unsure or we're scared, we take comfort in the arts. It's important that we don't lose sight that the artists are the ones that have to go in and pull that out to share with other people.
When you're depressed and going through grief, you just have this knot in your stomach and you just carry it with you everywhere you go. But when you kind of use that same gross feeling and put it onto like a canvas, you put it somewhere else. And it's a sigh of relief to not have that in you, but on paper instead.
I think that's one of the reasons that art exists, right? Like, I'm not the only person who feels healed and nurtured by what they create themselves. We all feel that healing. And again, I really think the power of art can be to take us out of where we are in that moment. And that is why having those pieces in the hospital, I feel, is really powerful. If it can kind of touch the spirit and lift people out of where they are, that can really be powerful. It's been powerful for me.
I think public art is so important to the health and well-being of a community because it creates a sense of belonging and a sense of place. Public art becomes our landmarks. They become part of our identity. They become the scenes of our special moments. And their willingness to invest in that and then even go a step further and explore the connection to medical well-being is really unprecedented.
The role of art in the healing process is well documented. No organization understands that better than ProMedica. We've known for a long time that stress, depression, and anxiety all have a negative impact on our health and our recovery from illness. We put art there to take people's mind off of the stresses that accompany the disease they might be there getting treated for. It's actually tangibly and scientifically relevant.
If there's a moment of transcendence where the ordinariness of and challenges of our day can disappear for a few minutes or even a few seconds, and someone can feel a little bit of hope and a little bit of lightness and a little bit of reminder of life beyond the hospital walls, that's a success to me.
The best part is, like, it's not about me being in front of my art showing it to people, it's just people seeing the art for the first time. And that's when it gets really magical, is when you see someone stop, stare, and just take it in. You just see them be weightless for a little bit. And there's nothing like that.